Hello everyone, so for the past 12 years I have been a sponsored athlete. I have ridden and represented a whole host of brands across the mountain bike industry, but for 2024 I've given that up and I'm going to share with you the bike that I'm choosing to ride in a very unfiltered manner. Okay, are you ready for the big unveiling of this bike? Let's do it. Okay, this is going to be really smooth. Ta-da! So, this is my bike. For those of you that have followed the Keeping Up with Katie series, you may recognise this steed. It is my bike from my 2021 race season when I took on the Enduro World Series myself and got a whole host of sponsors together. It was a pretty tricky year because it was COVID, so a lot of brands didn't know what they were doing, but these are the brands that pulled through with me. Now, I could have ridden any bike that I wanted this year, like anyone, because I had no obligations, no sponsors or anything like that, and I chose to do that. And this is what I've gone for. Why have I gone back to a bike that I've had in the past? Because I love this bike. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourites from over the years. It's got obviously a lot of sentimental value because that year was a really special year for me. My family came on board, I made it happen, and I had just an absolutely awesome time. It was very, very stressful, but I completed it, so I was very happy. Anyway, this bike really, really works for me, and over the years as a racer, I've always been pushing to find the perfect setup for me, and on my year off, I didn't want to have to spend time doing that because it's quite the rigmarole. I knew this bike worked for me, and so I was really keen to get back on it. It was going to be interesting because obviously I hadn't ridden it for a couple of years and I'd been on different bikes, and so I was keen to see how I got on, having experienced other setups. And I loved it straight away, which is great. So I'm really buzzing to be back on it. We've got the mullet setup. Now, what works for this bike? And this is the first time I can actually be unfiltered about things because I don't have any obligation to any of these brands to represent them or anything like that. This is actually just my true thoughts. I tend to be as honest and authentic as possible. That's not going to change. I can now just tell you more information. So for the past couple of years I've ridden Fox. I've had a lot of great results on Fox within my career. Now I'm back on SRAM and RockShox, having had the privilege to experience both of those setups at the top tier level, full factory level, and this is going to come through time and time again. It all comes down to personal preference. It comes down to you as a rider, your riding style, how heavy you are, how big you are. Like, I'm a really small rider, and for me personally, I have found that the RockShox stuff suits me a lot better. Being a lighter rider, I've just got on with it better. In terms of setting it up, I've found that it's a bit simpler to get to a solid setup. With the Fox stuff, I had to work a little bit harder to get there, but once I was there, it was really good. So again, comes down to personal preference and your own experience around what works for you personally. I love my electric gears because I don't like having to work on my bike. Minimal work on my bike is optimal, and once you put the derailleur on, you kind of just don't have to touch it again, so that's ideal. And the other big thing, which was a real big deal for me when I was looking at all these different bikes coming into the end of the year and trying to figure out what I was going to do, I looked at all these different bikes and bike brands, and so many of them aren't making small bikes anymore. Their small bikes are getting bigger. There's this trend of like longer, lower, slacker. And so there's people that ride large bikes are going down to medium size. But what if you're a small rider and you're in the small size but you can't go down a size? It's a really big problem. And I was looking at across a whole host of different brands. So many of them, I was like, none of these bikes are going to fit me. So that's another reason why I went back to this bike, because I was like, well, at least I know that one actually fits me, it works for me. And the key things for that around being a small person is that the seat tube here is really low. So it's 380 in measurement, which means I can get a 150mm dropper in, which is awesome, and it goes all the way down. So I've got a lovely big dropper, I've got a good standover, The other things that make this suitable for a smaller unit, like myself, is the short cranks. So we're going for 165mm cranks, we've gone for 720mm bars. All of this is to try and bring my limbs as close as possible, because if the more I'm spread out, the less leverage and less sort of suspension I have coming from my arms and my legs, because they're all miles away from each other. So by trying to bring them as close as possible, it gives me as much length as I'm going to get through my arms and my legs, which is going to help me not only absorb those bumps, but actually move around on the bike and move the bike exactly where I want to and react to the terrain and get the most out of that. Also just makes bikes way more fun if you can actually move around on them. So that was a big thing for me. We've got the mullet set up, which is just really fun, great fun to ride. I've ridden 29ers over the years, and I really enjoy racing on a 29er because I like the smoothness, I like the speed, it works for me as a racer. This bike, I had no issues when I was racing, but I'm now just really enjoying the fun, playful feel that the mullet gives you. It's obviously a really big suspension-wise bike, and I probably would now want to go to like a lower suspension bike, like as in less travel. This is 170 in my setup, so there's a lot of bike, but it's just a lot of fun. It can do everything. It can go on the bike parks, it can go anywhere. So having as much fun as possible was a key for me this year, and I know that I was going to get it from this bike. So there's a couple of changes I've made, and there's a few that I'm going to make to this bike from when I rode it in 2021. First of all, I just put on a new bottle cage. This is one from Specialized. I was told that it holds the bottles really well and they're not going to fall out, so I got that. And also, from the last couple of years, I've learned so much more about geometry and how the bike fits, and just being a smaller rider, how to sort of optimize that. And I've put a shorter stem on. I would prefer to run a 50mm stem and have a shorter reach in terms of the bike geometry and have a 50mm stem on, but that's obviously not possible with this bike and with a lot of bikes at the moment because they're all getting massive. So I've got 35mm stem on, so that was a big change for me, but that immediately felt way more comfortable just after the last couple of years and what I've been used to. The other thing I'm going to change is the tyres, but because I'm now paying for tyres, I'm running these ones into the ground and then I'll be changing them. I really got on so well with the Continental tyres last year, so that will be what I'll be putting on. And yeah, this is just a bike that I love, and I just wanted to tell you about it, and I just wanted to say that biking is great when you're on a bike that you know and get on with. If you're not enjoying biking, or it's your first time and your equipment's not working properly, biking sucks. So make sure you find a bike that works for you, try all the different types of bikes. I've been really privileged over the last few years to be able to try a whole host of different bikes, and this is my one at the moment. It's my little Bumblebee bike, and I'm very, very happy with it. I hope this video has been of some use to you, even if it's just to look at a nice bike. The end.
Oi! Oh yeah! Got the flat with Katie! Yeah! Yes!
Yeah!